What's your best fire me, I fucking dare you moment from work? Important note, my usual job was 3 am noon, and I was sleeping from 5 pm to 1 am. A split shift meant working 4:30 am to 8 am, and coming back to 7 pm to 11:30 pm. If I remember right, I had been working a series of split shifts and the wacky sleep schedule was really getting to me. I was told I would only need to do it 3 days in a row, but then it became 4 days, and then finally I went to sleep after the 4th shift, got woken up to my boss calling me and telling me I would have to work one more split shift. I told him no, and that I would come in for my usual schedule. He started to argue with me and asking me why it was a big deal, especially since I had worked it almost every day this week, so why not work one more? When I explained I was having issues with sleep and that I wouldn't come in, he was like, but it's your job. I'm scheduling you for another split shift. And I just yelled at him, then I don't need this job. He started apologizing and that he would let me get some sleep. I hung up. I went to work the next morning for my usual split and everyone there was surprised to see me. My boss had told everyone he thought I might not show up at all and wasn't sure if I had quit. I worked my usual shift. My boss came in at 8 am and began apologizing right away when he saw me. Then he said, if working a split was so hard on you, you could have told me no. I just turned and went to lunch. Owner of the company was avoiding the meeting where I get my raise. I waited over 2 weeks. Finally told my supervisors I'm walking out the door if they don't fix this. They told me to go talk to him. I told them they were the supervisors and it was their job to do that, not mine. I'm in an understaffed position at a job that is very difficult to fill. If I left then the rest would have gone too. They knew that. Last job it took 3 months and multiple times me asking to get a meeting about a raise. They told me the company does not give raises. Guess who was shocked to find out I was quitting? My company are doing this right now. I'm paid around 5-6k beneath the average market value. I've been the company's top performer for 2 years running, and I've had to cover my colleague multiple times for extended periods while she's been off sick regularly. Without me, the sales department would have tanked. I've not been greedy or confrontational. I genuinely just want a bit more, so I can live a little more comfortably with all the debt I have, but they keep ignoring me or putting off meetings, etc. When I was 17 I worked a summer holiday job at Pizza Hut. I had transferred to my hometown restaurant from my university town restaurant. I was there for 5 weeks and hadn't been paid yet. The dickhead boss claimed it was because I gave him the wrong employee number. I hadn't. Anyway, after 5 weeks of no pay I rang him on New Year's Eve, i.e. busiest night of the summer, and said I wasn't coming to work because I wasn't a volunteer and I wasn't going to work for free. He told me if I didn't go to work I may as well not come back as I would be fired. I didn't go to work and had a fun New Year's instead. Then a few days later I called the employment tribunal, I'm in New Zealand, and told them what had happened. They called my dickhead boss. He then called me, offered me my job back, and was nice as pie for the rest of the summer. You have to be a real dickhead boss to think that you can threaten someone that you've yet to pay for more than a month of labor. Especially when there's a whole government department just waiting for someone to let them know that their employer is withholding their wages and is only a phone call away. I was in the military and was trying to take my vacation time before I lost the days. They denied my requests for different times and I hadn't had a day off in 3 months, and I was working 12 to 16 hour shifts most days. I was beyond done. I was teaching some new guys part of the tasks for one job. Everything was fine. I went somewhere else in the hangar to do something else on the plane. This quality assurance guy that everyone knew was a pain came in. I did my stuff good and he never bothered me, so I didn't pay him any attention. He started talking to one of the new dudes. He then asked to talk to me and pulled me aside. He then asked why I hadn't told the new guy about some super obscure caution about water under a grate in the hangar floor. Something that had nothing to do with our job, so it didn't matter. He was just being a pain. I was over the job and him, so I told him Listen Sergeant Cap, I've been denied my leave 4 separate times and I've been working for 3 months straight. So if you have a problem with the way I taught them, write me up. I don't give a ref asterisk asterisk asterisk, and you can stuff it up your a asterisk asterisk too. Tell my boss I said that. It was a little extreme, but I was pushed to the point. When I went back in I knew I was in deep, because the guy walked out of my shop head's office, and I got called right in. When I went in there, the shop head said, I heard what happened out there, submit the days you want to take leave right now, and I'll approve it for you. Then told me I could leave. That's all I heard about it. I was shocked. Almost sounds like a halfway decent leader realized that he'd fucked up and pushed you too far, so he fixed the situation and moved on. Now sounds like the cat guy chewed out ops boss for allowing that to happen. Employee fatigue leads to all kinds of workplace accidents. I was working at a shoe store in a mall, and I requested a week in August off for my wedding. My manager told me her boss wasn't happy about that, and all I said was my wedding is more important than back to school sales. They didn't fire me, Paresi, they just stopped scheduling me, and eventually my access to the employee website went away. That's called constructive dismissal, and is illegal in some circumstances. Husband was having his gallbladder taken out and was having complications before surgery. I needed to leave early from work for about 2 hours and my boss threw a fit stating I couldn't leave. I told her I had 300 hours of sick time I can use for myself and my husband, and if she wanted to push I'd take all of it at once, leaving no one but her to do my job. She said she'd fire me if I tried. I just looked at her and said I have to go, I'll send you my DR's note. I wasn't fired. I was actually awarded that year for job performance. Edit. I didn't take all 300 hours. I just threatened to, since I was protected by FMLA. I only took the day off. Nice. I'll just take 9 weeks off now. A manager threatened to fire me because I wouldn't make some system changes that would have led the company very open to a cyber attack. I had recorded a phone call between the manager and I where I explained the risk and that we needed someone more senior to sign off on that risk before I would make the change. He swore at me and told me just to fucking do it, which was all captured on the recording. He didn't know I was recording. At the hours meeting where he was going to effectively fire me, I insisted on bringing representation, and at the time the policy said I could bring whoever I wanted. So I chose his boss. The meeting starts, the manager cites insubordination etc, and I just sat there. When they eventually said we are giving you formal notice, I just asked, are you sure? He replied yes. My representative, his boss, at this point had said nothing. It was at this point I played the recording. I was asked to leave the room. I was called back 15 minutes later, apologized to, given a pay rise, and informed that the manager will no longer be working on this client site, or any client site we supported. Edit. Spelling. Although I left in my dodgy spelling of manager at the request of one of you guys. Was working in a restaurant. Already knew I was sick, but our managers were assholes and I knew if I called in they'd be extremely pissy. Showed up to work around 8 am. By 9 am I knew I wasn't gonna last the rest of the day. Manager still made me stay. Around 9:30 I was pre-bussing my tables and just the sight of half-eaten food pushed me over the edge. Managed to hold my vomit until I got to the dishwashing area, but puked in a trash can immediately after putting my plates down. A coworker saw me and vouched for me. When I went to tell my manager I was leaving for the doctor, he said, even with the doctor's note, if you leave work today you'll be fired. I said, you have human waste in a kitchen trash can and haven't even done anything about it. It's on camera. I'm leaving. Showed up for work a few days later and didn't hear anything about it. Ended up quitting a few weeks later for a job at a couple considerably higher scale restaurant. I worked for Burger King at one point and had salmonella. I couldn't find anyone to cover for me. I was scheduled for a long understaffed shift with the most obnoxious supervisor. My boss said I had to come in anyway. I called my DM and explained. DM said come in anyway. I had no way to contact the franchise owners. Contacted back corporate who basically said we are not responsible for franchise stuff. So I went into work, threw up in a lobby full of people, and said I have salmonella, but my boss wouldn't let me have the day off. I got the day off. and I found another, more reasonable job shortly after. Edit. Longer version of the story. I kept running to the bathroom to explode from both ends, essentially. It got busy, and my supervisor got nasty and said I needed to stay at the register and stop running off. So, being the extremely timid teenager that I was, I stayed. I felt like I was going to throw up, but I fought it and told myself I wasn't going to. Unsurprisingly, that didn't work, and I threw up. I was embarrassed and upset and felt god awful, so I started crying, and one of the ladies in line was asking if I'm okay and what's wrong. So I said that I was sick. The doctor thought it was salmonella, and I tried really hard to call in sick, but I was told if I didn't come in, I would lose my job.